right. Well, I'm excited today to have Ray Smith on with us today. Um, Ray has spent more than 3 decades at the intersection of entrepreneurship, business, strategy, and capital information. Ray is the founder and CEO of CredFin, a financial technology and advisory company helping entrepreneurs become capital qualified, which we're going to talk about before they ever ask a lender for money. You've advised thousands of business owners, built sales organizations, developed national marketing campaigns, and gained really firsthand understanding of why some companies consistently attract capital while others, equally as deserving, can't get funded. You're also the creator of the Capital Freedom Movement with a mission to help 1 million business owners gain access to capital, build stronger companies, and create lasting economic freedom. Today, we're going to go behind the curtain to examine how lenders really evaluate your business, why your financial profile tells a story before you ever enter the room, and what entrepreneurs must do to become fundable. So, Ray, welcome to the Insurance Profits Podcast. I'm glad to have you.
I love it. Thanks, Rob. What a great introduction. It's
Well, we've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm excited that we
yeah.
actually get to do this, and you get to be a part of what we're building at the same time. So thanks for agreeing to be a part of this.
Yeah, and I'd like to start off by saying I didn't start in the business credit industry and the business funding, and I didn't know it all. And that's the reason I went out and I created this. So in 1998, I got into consumer credit, and everybody knows about the three bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and we actually helped people get credit cards, people that had bad credit. And then the bank went out of business. The subprime market collapsed there. And so then I got into credit repair. And credit repair, everybody knows, is sending letters to the bureaus and trying to remove the negatives. And it's not for everybody. It's only for the people that are through that bump in the road and that want to continue. But the problem with just removing the negatives is you leave the people as a ghost because there's no trade lines. And so then we worked on a process to add positive trade lines, such as your rent, utilities, and that kind of thing. So it's just been a journey. I mean, I grew up on a farm in South Dakota. All we know how to do is work. We never taught finances in school. We're never taught how to spend our money personally. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs spend their money in the business like they do in their personal life. They look at their bank account, how much money I got, and try to run. And so that's the genesis behind CredFin, which is credit and finance kind of put together.
Let's rewind. You said something. I want to really rewind and go. Let's go back to South Dakota. Let's go back to growing up in South Dakota. Tell me about that. What was that like?
It was phenomenal. It's made me who I am today. It was a 3,500 acre dairy farm.
Wow.
Um, I went to a one room school, like Little House on the Prairie. Everybody's seen that. That's the school my dad went to. That's the school his mom went to. And I was the only one in my grade. So when I was a first grader, because we didn't have kindergarten, there was four fourth graders. So that was the gap. So there was five kids in that little school, which, was the school for the surrounding areas because the farms are 3,500 acres is, to somebody in the city is really a lot, but back home, it's just a small farm and
Yeah.
work ethic. So it just, you learn how to work. And when you do things, you don't do it because you like to, you do it because you have to, because it's all on survival.
Right. So, no brothers, sisters, or do you have brothers and sisters? Did you?
Yeah. I have an older brother. He's 4 years older. So he was one of the fourth graders. And then I have a younger brother. He's 7 years younger. So I'm the
Okay.
middle child, the wild ride.
What was it like growing up with being the middle child between those two?
So it was interesting because my older brother and I were really close until my younger brother was born. And because we're on the farm and there's a lot of work, my older brother would take care of my younger brother because I wasn't old enough. So I was always out helping dad. and mom. And it was just us three. So I was kind of, I don't want to say distant, but the relationship between mom, dad, and I was a lot stronger than it was with my brothers. And then as I became a fourth and fifth grader, my older brother went to high school, which was 25 miles away. We get our driver's license when we're 14. And so we drove 25 miles each way to high school. So he's going to high school as, you know, there's corn to plant, there's barley to plant in the spring and summer, and then you harvest it in the fall, and then you try to get through the winter. And it's always work, always work.
So I'm imagining that created in you kind of a relentless work ethic,
Survival and grit.
survival. Yeah. Yeah. How are the winters there?
Uh, in like 78 and 79, it was the worst snow ever. It was like 20, 30 feet. And we would have to dig down into the snow to get the trucks with our rolled corn for our baby calves. And the National Guard came in. So that was one of the worst ones. And then in 86, we were actually mentioned on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson because it was 96 below zero. So they're rough.
Wow. Yeah, that's it's not for the faint of heart by any means. What brought your family to South Dakota? How did you guys end up there?
So my mom's mom and dad, they homesteaded. So we have the homestead papers from 100 years
Oh
ago. And that's
wow.
how South Dakota, you know, got populated was the homesteaders coming out and they would were given 32 acres if they would develop it. And so it was just, that's how there's sod houses still back home, old relics and stuff, a lot of history. And
You still have the homestead? Is that still in the family or is it gone?
it's in my cousin, so my dad passed away in '07. My younger brother took it over right after dad passed away. And then he wanted to do other work. He didn't like farming. So he sold it to our cousin, which is my dad's mom's kid.
Okay.
So, so it's still there. Yeah.
Still there? Do you go back ever?
Oh yeah. Every time I
Yeah.
go back, I drive down and see it. Yeah. A lot of history there.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of
So
memories.
so your parents were they immigrants? Did they come from another country and that's why they homesteaded, or were they just back east? Or
My great grandparents did from Norway.
okay, Norway. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've got that cold blood in you no matter what.
Yep. A lot of Norwegian do some dumb things. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, the
Uh,
Welsh and the Smith. A lot of Irish and Norwegian and a little German.
and a little German. Okay, all right, all right. So you grew up. You're going to high school. Talk to me about your high school years there.
Yeah, so going to elementary school, I was the top of my grade for 8 years since I was the only one in my grade. And then we drove 25
You had to be
miles.
the bottom,
Yeah, I know. But you learn to fend for yourself, right?
right?
it's who you are. You don't have nobody to compare notes to and get by. But then when I became a sophomore, it was kind of different because everybody knew and loved my older brother. So when I was a sophomore in high school, he was a sophomore in college, so he'd moved on. And so, oh, you're Tim's brother. So everybody knew me and I didn't know anybody. And there was eight other kids in my class, so there was nine total, which was a huge class for me, right? Coming from one.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Eight
and
hundred percent growth.
yeah, but because I was by myself, I didn't really relate to the kids my age. I really related to the seniors and the juniors. And it was amazing because my freshman year of high school, I was hanging out with the seniors and I never understood why. And I didn't really hang out with my classmates until we were seniors. It was crazy, but yeah, it was,
Does it make finding a date for the prom kind of difficult?
yeah, yeah. And we didn't have a lot of extracurricular activities. I didn't go to them because I was always working on the farm. So it was
Mhm.
school, get to school at 8. Well, you get up at 5, milk the cows. 7:30, you're eating breakfast, change, you're driving to school, get there about 8, 8:10. School started at 8:20. School got done at 3. You're back home at 3:30, changed, you're out the door, milking cows at 4, doing the feeding and stuff. 7 o'clock, come in, eat supper. If there is any homework, you do it, but usually I did it in class and then
Yeah.
repeat. So
So by the time you get through high school, are you itching to get out of South Dakota, or what are you what happens?
yeah, so I wanted to be a math teacher and a music teacher because those are
Mm.
the two subjects I really liked, and I didn't know which one I liked better. So I became a double major. And when I was a junior in high school, I started going to Dickinson State University, taking private music lessons from the professor up there because my music teacher graduated from there. So my music teacher said, I'll get you private lessons with Dr. Brown on the weekends. So I would drive up to Dickinson. We get our driver's license when we're 14. We have freedom. We don't have buses and all that kind of stuff.
Right, right.
And so I started taking private music lessons for singing because and I majored in music and math. And then we put ourselves through college, paid for it. So I would work nights at this cabinet factory. And because of the Dr. Brown, we went to Europe. So I went on a choir tour twice over in Europe. I was working at this cabinet factory, and because of my work ethic, I got put on the highest position running the night shift in the cutting area. And I was making 35,000 a year working there as a college kid. And the starting pay for a teacher was 14,400. And so because I was a math major, I could figure it out that being a teacher probably wasn't the best thing.
Right.
And then because the kids were gone for the most part, because now I'm in college and my younger brother's going to high school and mom and dad are just having to work so hard. I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So I started selling long distance phone service for a network marketing company and teamed up with a guy in Georgia. And there was three of us in the cabinet factory that wanted to be entrepreneurs and not be slaves to a business. And so I put everything in my car and I drove to Georgia in 1996 and I started working with this company selling long distance phone service and kind of learned the sales process and business because when you're an employee, it's, show up, leave, that kind of thing. And I love the entrepreneur spirit. We contracted with a call center in Las Vegas who was a sham, and they started selling bogus customers to us, and it blew up our contract with the long distance company. But the guy that told us what was happening from the inside, I started talking with him. We became really good friends. And I said, man, I'll come out there and help you. So I packed up in 1998 and drove from Georgia to Las Vegas. And that's how we opened the call center. The long distance phone service, you don't get paid for 90 days because you got to switch the service, use the service, pay for the service, and then you get paid. And we had this call center and we needed a product and service. And a friend of ours had this bank in Chicago that had people that were looking for credit cards. And so we just got into that business and that's how it all started into the credit industry.
Wow. It's amazing how a journey can take you to places you never thought you would go, right?
Yeah. And you just have to seize the moment, right? Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
let's just do it. And that's the way it was on the farm. You're working and you asked how the winter was. Well, when 20 feet of snow comes in and you got to milk the cows every morning and every night because the pumps need to be milked, right? and there's no place to put the milk because the milk truck driver can't get it in there. You got to figure it out. So we were out in the corrals chopping ice to get this water tank so that we could put extra milk in it. And it's just, you got to figure stuff out. And that's just one example, of surviving.
Yeah. Where do you think your entrepreneurial spirit came from? Did it come from your dad, your mom? Did
A dad in the farm,
yeah, yeah,
because the farmer has to take care of the family, and there's no book, there's no manual. You just, the tractor breaks down and you're 5 miles away. You got to figure it out. So you become an electrician. You become a hydraulic hose fixer. You come, all that stuff. You just survive.
excuse me. That's pretty incredible. So 98, you're in Vegas, and the opportunity to start doing working in the credit industry begins. Tell me a little bit about your journey there.
So Steve and Lisa came from the call center world. That was my business partners. There were a couple. That's who I partnered up with. And I knew how to fix stuff like in operations because that's what we did on the farm. And my whole life, I was just, I got to take care of all these different departments and stuff. So I was the operations guy. Steve knew how to train sales agents. And then we brought his brother in to be like a supervisor to train and manage the sales agents. And I was the lead guy. I had to get the leads, had to make sure that the applications were sent out to the customers, make sure the merchant bank was set up, had the relationship with the bank. So I was pretty much everything except for the sales. That's where my weakest link is the sales department because of that. But because Steve knew sales and Lisa knew the accounting and I did the operations, it was three solid legs under the stool. I mean, it was so rock solid, everything we did.
Awesome. Looking back at this point in your journey, back to the farm and the way you grew up and mom and dad, all of those things, what are some of the key lessons that you think you learned along the way that you still draw from today?
So I actually wrote a book and I put it in there. It's about being the only kid in my grade, survival. And when you're an entrepreneur, you got to have a teacher, an advisor, a board, but you're really the one that's responsible for everything. And it's just like the farmer. There's there's no manual. So when stuff breaks down, you got to figure it out. And so I have figured it out all along this journey by myself. I haven't had classmates to run stuff against. I haven't had, a lot of the stuff. So I'm self-sufficient in a way. I still need advice and advisors and stuff, but I know how to be the center pole of the circus tent. You're the strong one and you're the one that makes the decision and everything either succeeds or fails because of you.
Right. So that kind of really creates in you. I don't think self sufficiency is the right word, but there is a you see this in a lot of entrepreneurs, like people who, because no one's coming to rescue you, like no one's coming to shovel the snow out of the way for you, no one's coming to do that. That it's almost like a super resilience that kicks in, right? Because you keep using the word survival, but it's almost beyond that. It's like there's no other option than what we have to do. You've kind of navigated all the potential options, and now here you are. So how has that lesson, do you think, served you over the years in your business ventures?
Well, then I think the word resilience would be a better word because you got to be resilient. There's so many obstacles that come every entrepreneur's way, right? All they want to do is develop their widget, sell their widget, and provide for their family. But there's so many different variables. You got to have a marketing department, a sales department, a legal department, an accounting department. And they're like, but all, it's like my friend who was a chef who wanted to open up a restaurant. Fantastic chef. He goes and gets a loan. He calls me and he goes, can I meet with you? And I said, yeah. He goes, I got a problem. And I said, what's the problem? And he says, well, we're opening next week and I don't have any money for marketing. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, well, I spent it all on redesigning the restaurant and the menu and all this stuff. And that's how a chef thinks, right? That they want the food right, the interior, but there's a whole outside world that you gotta know also. And I was like, wow, we gotta figure this out. And that's the resilience. And we did, but, but that's what entrepreneurs really gotta fight through every day. And every day there's more and more challenges.
Yeah. It's been my experience, and yeah, I'm really curious to hear yours. A lot of times people, they get that entrepreneurial bug, whether it's network marketing or insurance or mortgage or real estate or you name whatever widget they want to sell. And they dive in head first, but they've got really no conceptual idea of what it takes to make that business succeed, right? If you look back over your career, talk to me about times you dove in. Tell me about the lessons you learned along the way as it pertains to that. Talk to us about the times you failed at it.
Yeah. So, the opening scene in the book I wrote talks about Friday the 13th in 2002. So it was Thursday the 12th, December 12th. I get a phone call from the bank and, Joe Centilla, God rest his soul. He says, Ray, I got some bad news for you. And I said, okay, I'm ready. And he goes, yeah, the bank had a board meeting last night and they're going to shut this department down. And I said, oh, okay, when? He goes, tomorrow. And so it's December the 13th, a Friday, 2 weeks before Christmas, and we don't have a program. And I got to stand and tell 65 employees that we're out of business. And where are you going to find a program at Christmas time? And that was, very, very humbling. And it takes grit. And you didn't just go home. You stood up there and you told everybody, and we'll contact you after the first of the year because I know it's going to take time, but you guys got to go take care of your families and stuff. And that was one of the real testaments about, okay, I'm by myself. We got to figure this out. So then we went home for Christmas and New Year's. And on January 3rd, Steve and Lisa called me and they said, hey, we want to meet you down at the office. And I was like, oh, okay, good. We might have another program. And they said, yeah, we thought about it and we just don't have it in us to go any further. So we're going to move to Florida because Steve's mom had a brain tumor and we're going to go spend time with them and you can just do what you want with this. And,
Best of luck.
and that's what it was. And that was a becoming of age moment. Like I thought the Friday the 13th was a becoming of age. I became a grandfather at the second one.
I'm surprised you
And,
still have it, man.
oh man, that was, but what do you do? A
Mhm.
hailstorm comes through, wipes out your whole crop, and you still got cows to feed. You don't just go home and sit there. You figure it out. And I thought of that over and over again. So what we
Yeah.
did is made phone calls and we had this database of people with bad credit. And so that's how I got into credit repair because I didn't have to spend any money to get customers. This was before the do not call laws and before caller ID and all that stuff. So people actually answered the phone, right?
Right.
So it sounds bad, but all your viewers here, they've all had crises like that. You know what? I'm sorry you got cancer. I'm sorry your loved one got in a car wreck. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a shock to the system and you adapt, fight through it and keep going.
We've adopted the terminology of ground zero. Like those moments are ground zero moments where you've kind of you're looking at the destruction zone of what you thought you were building. And I know in my life I've had more than one ground zero moment, and I'd like to start avoiding them, but somehow they seem to track me like uh, hurricanes in a hurricane
Eh,
season. So
Yeah, I heard a statement the other day. God doesn't break you. He's building you. And those are moments that you're being built. You know, you go to the gym and you lift more than you should and it rips, but that's how you get stronger. And all those tests are how we get stronger.
and on in the backside, it's so easy to look at that. But talk to
Oh,
the business owner that's in the middle of it right now, the one that got that phone call that is trying to figure out their next steps. And if they were to tune in, what would you, if they could sit across from you right now, what would you tell them?
two things. One, look for a mentor and just know you don't have to have all the answers today. Because when I went through that with the call center, I met this gentleman from Oklahoma. His name was Gifford, and he was taking companies public. He was brought in by somebody who was looking at our call center, and we just had a conversation. And I said, man, I could learn from you. And he goes, well, I like your work ethic. I think I could help you. And so I wanted to take my company public after I got into the credit world. And I called him and he says, well, I know you ain't got no money, but if you're willing to run, I'm willing to run right there with you. And I'm like, are you serious? And he goes, yeah. And so there's always somebody that's been through it that wants to give back. That's one of the things. And then fast forward to COVID, because I met Kevin Harrington, we can get into that down the road, but the original shark from Shark Tank, and he did all the infomercials, and he was my mentor in 2018 and 19, and we were going to do some big things, and then COVID hit, and we had to shut down like every business, and you just like shut down. Man, businesses barely survive working 24/7, and now we have to go sit for 2 weeks. This is terrible. And so I would have weekly Zoom calls with him, and he's like, Ray, you just got to lean into it. You just got to show up and it'll work itself out. And he says, let me tell you a story. So he told me about when he had a scene on TV and was growing all over the world, these infomercials. He had call centers in India and Europe and Canada. And then the Gulf War happened. And what happened during that time? Everybody, they played it 24/7 on the news channels, right? The war, no commercials, and his phone stopped ringing. And he lost 80% of his business in a week.
Wow.
And he said, no one prepares you for it. So you go through that and you survive. And he goes, what I learned is you don't want to own call centers. You contract with them, but you learn from it. And then things get going. And then 9/11 happens. Same thing. You get going and then the financial crisis happened. And then COVID happened. And he's like, don't worry about it. Just lean into it. We'll get through this. And so you need that person for you, the entrepreneur struggling, that has been through it. Because you're not the only one. Everybody's gone through it, right? Everybody. And it won't be the last time you go through it because you'll go through it again because we
Right.
all do. And being an entrepreneur isn't lonely. It's just really spacious, right? And the problem is you have no one to talk to because you don't want to talk to your employees about everything because you got to walk in with a smile on your face. And that's why you need those mentors, someone to pick up the phone and just talk. You don't even need advice sometimes. You just need to say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Oh, yeah, I can relate. And then you
Yeah.
get off the phone. It's like you and I. How many times have we done that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And kind of why we're doing what we're doing right now, and why we're building on our side the agent underground, because agents are an entrepreneurial breed that kind of feels like nobody knows what they're going through. They're going through the same thing every entrepreneur goes through. They just have a very dedicated widget that they're selling. But I love what you said. That was really going to ponder that. Entrepreneurship isn't lonely; it's spacious. That's an interesting take. Tell me why you say that. Tell me about that.
because a mentor told me that. A guy who had a call center back when I lost everything with the call center and I
Yeah,
was young. And he says, ah, come on, kid. Being an entrepreneur isn't lonely. It's just spacious. We got a lot of room. And I've never forgotten that
yeah. Why do you think you never forgot that? How did that change you?
because I was a lonely person. I was scared to death all by myself in a big world. It's one thing to be the only kid in a one room school, which is a safe box environment. And your mom and dad pick you up and take you home to another safe environment. But when you're the business owner and you gotta figure it out, you gotta put food on your table, a roof over your head, and you're responsible for all these other people. That's a defining moment. And I know these insurance agents that you're working with feel the same way. And just know that it's okay to feel that way. But you'll get through it and surround yourself with people that have been through it to help you. They're not going to do it for you, right? It's like learning how to swim, which I've never done. I've heard about it though. You can't learn by reading a book. You got to jump in and do it. And that's the way it is in entrepreneur world.
I think one of the hardest parts about the entrepreneur journey is knowing who to trust, who to surround yourself with, because there seems to be those people out there that prey on entrepreneurs, right? They bring a lot of promises and end up bringing a lot of destruction. How have you navigated that? And maybe you haven't. Maybe you're like me and you've made some bad decisions along the way, but you've learned as well. How do you navigate that?
So there's two things about talking to people. One is you talk to people you trust, which are the wrong people because it's usually your friends and family that aren't entrepreneurs. That's a worse people. Those are the worst people to talk to because they don't understand. And all they know is they don't want to see you get hurt. So they give you this advice and you're second guessing yourself so much. And then you hear your close friend tell you, well, I wouldn't do that. I would do this. And now you triple second guess yourself and you get stuck. And so that's one of them. And then the second thing is with social media, there's all these gurus driving around in sports cars and stuff that are 20 and 30 years old. But you got to take a step back and look at how many 20 and 30-year-olds are driving those cars because business doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And everybody needs to do a business plan. Like, I know I'm in a crisis now. What am I going to work on? Like, take some time and go, okay, I'm going to lay out the next 3 months. Here's where I think I can be and put some targets in it. And then when this guru comes and says, well, I got this widget or I got that, say, okay, well, how will it help me in the next 3 months or 6 months or 12 months? Because really what they want is that sale so that they can go on. And I stopped looking for widgets that will automate everything and everything will be perfect. Just buy this and buy that. And I've done that so many times. It's terrible. I really want somebody that's going to be there and to partner with.
I think you said something very, very, I think important there is that, um, and I lost you.
Just for a second. Sorry.
No, that's okay. There you are. Um, I lost. You said something important that I want to kind of talk about, and that is you look for people to partner with, right? And I think that is a key component. But I don't call it just partnership. I call it right partnership. Right? You can find partners, but it's finding right partners that are important. What do you look for when you're looking for people to partner with? What are you looking for in that partnership? What makes you go, that's somebody I want to work with? You know, Kevin Harrington on the outside looking in becomes an easy one. You're like, well, he was with Shark Tank, but really at the time you met him, maybe he wasn't that. Maybe he. How do you know who you want to partner with?
Well, you partner with Kevin if you want credibility and you want marketing experience. If you want fundraising, you don't go to Kevin. And Kevin will tell you that. He sucks at raising money. He hates it. He loves helping companies with marketing. So you find that strategic partner that knows inside and out that component or that industry that you're looking for help on. That's how you look for that partner. Um, that's what Kevin said. And we were at this board of advisors meeting and he said, the reason I look for a person to help me raise money is because I'm tired of getting my ass kicked. And that's the first time I heard that from him. But when you hear a shark make that statement, you're like, dang, he's just like us.
Yeah.
He's really good in one area. And then I took a step back going, well, he's not going to fix my whole business. I need to utilize him with his strengths and go find others to fill
Yeah.
in the holes that I have. And I say that with all due respect to Kevin, because that's what Kevin would want us to say as entrepreneurs.
Well, I think sometimes we look at someone like a Kevin Harrington or a Mark Cuban and we think they have it all figured out. But I think one of the keys is that they found the right partnerships. And man, you hit on something that I think too many entrepreneurs don't get. They're looking for the magic bullet. They're looking for that one person that will come in, the one sales associate or the one marketing person that's going to fix everything. But when you get strategic about your partnerships and you go, okay, I'm not going to go to Ray to build my website, but I'm going to go to Ray to learn business funding to figure that out. Like that's your strategic partner, for some of the things that we're doing. Same with, like Kevin or those kinds of things. So I think that what a great point to bring up. And I appreciate you saying that because I don't think it's said enough in entrepreneurship at all. I think that it's missed.
No, and you look at these gurus on Facebook on these ads, you think that they have it all put together because they're in front of their private jet or their car. But there's a whole team behind them. And they have one aspect. You know, you go to Grant Cardone. Would you go to Grant Cardone for fundraising? Maybe. But if you wanted to get into the real estate industry, you'd go to Grant Cardone, right? And Grant Cardone struggled until he met up with Brandon Dawson. And then those two teamed up because he had somebody to bounce stuff off. And Brandon saw Grant's strengths and said, I'm going to get you focused on your strengths. And that's closing deals. And we'll bring in other people to do the sales and go find them and all that kind of stuff. And in 2 years, Grant Cardone went from $1 billion to $5 billion because he had that right partner, that mentor. And you need that because business is hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think one of the other key things to think about is if you find somebody who is saying they can fix everything, it's probably time to run away,
I was
right?
just going to say that. Yeah.
Because but how many times do we see that? I mean, they talk a good game. I remember I was on a phone call with a guy who he basically said, "I can, you know, quadruple your sales, and I will bring all this and all that." And I was like, just like there were so many big promises, and we got to the end of the call, and I said, all that sounds great. I just think you're a wrong fit for us. And it blew his mind. Like he thought he had sold himself, and instead, what because I've done it enough times, I saw through the the pretense and the phony. But how many entrepreneurs get hung up there by somebody who can talk a good game, right?
Because we've been beat down so much, we're hope. Oh, that's the savior that's going to fix everything.
Yeah,
And it's not real.
yeah, yeah. What would you say to that business owner right now who's in that beat down place? What would you say to them right now?
It's okay to take a step back, regroup. What can you focus on right now? How long is the problem going to persist? What is the actual fix for it? And who can I strategically seek out to come work with me to work through this, not on a daily basis, but on a mentorship basis? I've had several calls here the last few days with business owners all across the country and merger and acquisitions. And it's called the Great Wealth Transfer. And it's the silver tsunami. So there's $64 trillion being transferred. And so you have all these baby boomers that are selling their business, closing down their business, um, just moving on because that they're at that age. And there's this new golden age coming up. And all of those older, wiser people, I was on with this guy, he's 85 years old and he's sharp as a tack. He's a great mentor. He's not going to come and help you fix your business, but you can have a conversation with him and you get that comfort because you know you're not an idiot, you're stupid. Life happens in business and in life, and you fight through everything. So, no, it's not going to be fixed by taking a pill. It's not going to be fixed tomorrow when you wake up, but you'll get through it.
Let's shift gears a little bit here and let's talk about the business credit world because that's really where your strengths have come into play. Here you've built a resume of business, working through business and pivoting at strategic moments when things weren't working the way they needed to, and really practicing the resilience that you learned on the farm. But now here you are in this credit world, and I think that the credit world is a like people don't understand it. They don't understand really how that all works, and especially business owners, right? How many business owners have you talked to that go, "Oh, I've got business credit," but the reality is it's in their personal socials, it's in their personal name, their personal guarantees, all of that kind of stuff, because they don't know any difference. So take us from you got into repairing credit, and now you're moving into the world of business credit, how that works, why it works, and kind of take us on that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So in 2019, I was launching these kiosks that went at car dealerships. We were in a consumer credit. In 2020, we had an investor cruise. We were going to launch it in 50,000 car dealerships. COVID hits and it blows the whole thing up. The government says, "Oh, hey, everybody, here's some free money. Don't worry about paying anything." So I'm set on the street because I would talk to people and they had no desire to talk to me. They didn't give a dang about their credit, their personal finances, anything because this free money was coming. But I was getting the phone calls from the employees saying, "I don't want to lose my job. I'm not an essential employee. I don't have daycare. We don't have toilet paper." All of this stuff was happening at the same time. And it was just like this unknown. And all the business owners were trying to do just like me is save their business. They put everything they had into it. And then we get out from underneath that dark cloud and it's supposed to be normal. Well, it's not. Your personal credit is shot. And I was introduced to business credit in 2018 and 2019 and talking with Kevin, we pivoted in 2021. So we're solely into business credit. And with the consumers, since annualcreditreport.com came out where you could pull your own credit report for free once a year and work in the car dealerships, I thought it was the stupidest thing that somebody go into a car dealership, let the loan officer, the car salesman, pull your credit and tell you what's on your credit report. Like you should know before you go in. And that was our big pitch with the consumer credit. So I'm like, okay, so let's do the same thing for this business credit. How does it work? Well, everybody knows Dun& Bradstreet, but did you know there's two more? Experian Business and Equifax Business? Oh, wow. Did you know 80 to 90% of the vendors don't even report to the bureaus? You might have an account, but they're not reporting. But when you apply, 100% of them are going to pull those business reports. And I'm like, okay, so it's another computer system. I want to know how the computer system works from the lender's side, and we're going to fix it on the consumer, the entrepreneur side. And so that's what we did is we created this platform, a capital qualified platform. We take the business owner's credit profile with the EIN number and plug it in, go to Dun& Bradstreet, Experian, and Equifax. We know in real time what the requirements are from the lenders. We know which vendors report to which bureaus. And so now there's no guessing. It's just a step-by-step process. And that's how we created CredFin, which is credit and finance, because you need that credit for finance. And business credit is 5 to 10 times more powerful than personal credit. But when you don't know that, and you have a powerful tool in the toolbox, it's just sitting there.
Why do you think more businesses don't understand this? I mean, what's the percentage of SBA that money that is never used?
Oh, the SBA has $44 billion to give out, and they only approve around 32% of the applicants because we're not taught what's required. It's just like going into the car dealership. What was your FICO? Well, let's dial back prior to 2008. Why was the financial meltdown? Because they came up with these signature loans that pull your credit report, and if your FICO score was over 620, you didn't have to prove income. And so everybody was just getting loans. Just they were trying to get their credit score just over that threshold. They were lying. They were getting $1 million homes and they were making 30,000 a year. And so all these fictitious loans were given out. But the game was, I'll get this loan because the real estate market was booming. I'll flip this house in 6 months. And they were using that house like an ATM machine. Well, after the financial meltdown, now, and I tell people now, the FICO score is the key to the front door of the bank. All the trade lines will get you into the vault. And so that's the way it is with business credit. No one understands it. No one talks about it. There's no place to go to understand. And Dun& Bradstreet will sell you this package. You can monitor your credit, but what do you do with it? What lender? Well, I don't know about that. We just want to sell our widget. And so that's why we broke it all down and created this comprehensive package that includes everything with a roadmap.
Why, to the entrepreneur, why is business credit so important and really pivotal to their business success?
I give this example. We had a restaurant owner, his walk-in cooler went out. He went down, put 8 grand on his personal credit card. His FICO score dropped 100 points. If he would have had a business credit card with 10,000 limit, because his personal card was getting to be maxed out. That's why the scores go down. With a business credit card, you put $8,000 down on that $10,000 card. You make a couple payments. You call the bank and say, hey, I need a credit line increase. They'll raise it from 10,000 to 50,000, usually 5 times whatever the limit is. It was the same transaction just on 2 different cards. And that's why I say business credit is 5 to 10 times more powerful than consumer credit.
So
The more,
help someone understand, because I think this is where people get lost, right? I've talked to tons of business owners and they'll pull their card out and they've got a Visa card that's got their business name on it. US Bank issued that. Is that really business credit or is that like quasi business credit? And what's the What's the difference? What earmarks the difference between those two?
Well, typically on those two instances, you've personally guaranteed it. So it's tied to your personal credit. So if you have a ding on your personal credit, your business credit line is going to be killed. Everything we do is we set up the business to stand on its own, no personal guarantees. And we want the business to sustain itself. So that's why we ask you, okay, Mr. Entrepreneur, you need 40 grand for this service truck. How much revenue is it going to generate you over the next 6, 12 months? We do like a mini business plan, especially with AI. You can do that real quick right now. The lender's not, they don't care about how excited you are about your business. They don't care about you personally. They don't fund your business. They fund risk. That's all they're doing is looking at risk. So what's out there
Right.
and where are you going to be in 6 to 12 months? So that's why we want to know, where are you going to be in 12 months, 18 months, 36 months? Because depending on where you want to go, we got to start now. So let's get this funding fixed, but let's get you to apply at a couple more places to keep adding trade lines on those business credit reports because you need 6 to 8 to move up to tier two. There's 4 tiers of funding. And then you need like 16 to get to tier three. So if you're sitting here today and you know that, and you know you're going to need 100 grand in 12 months, well, let's start working on it today because everything takes time. And you lay out this plan, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least you're going in that direction. Where if you don't do anything today and 12 months comes around and you need that 100 grand, you're going to be right in the same spot you are today, struggling.
So what you're telling me is that as a business owner, my business credit does not have to rely on me personally.
Correct. It shouldn't.
So why do business owners not know this?
Because they go apply 2, 3 times and get denied, and they get a letter that says too few trade lines, not enough history, and they need money so they could use their personal credit because that's the only thing they know how to do is survive. The bank won't tell them what to do to fix it. Dun and Bradstreet won't tell you what to do to fix it for the long term. And that's why we created CredFin.
What a so you're almost like an advocacy group versus just now do you guys do the actual credit lending?
We have partners that do the lending. That's how we know in real time what their requirements are. So we
Okay.
don't put you, the business owner, in front of the lender until you've gone through our system enough that we know that the approval is coming, right?
So
And
if I'm the business owner and I know this because full disclosure to people, I'm in Ray's system. I'm building two businesses using this, but let's for a minute talk from the standpoint of that I'm just a guy that showed up. Ray, I've got this business. I need help building business credit. Um, you know, I need a loan. How do I get it? Like Ray, tell me what I need to do.
well, where you at today? Well, I got this $10,000 card. I know it's being reported. Do you know that to be fact? Where is it being reported? We got to do this foundation first. So it's CredFin.ai is our website because we have credit and finance and AI. So lenders right now, when you submit an application, are going out to public databases. They're pulling down these records that's attached to your EIN number. And then any discrepancy puts you higher and higher and higher into the risk category. So for instance, we do a foundation platform overview. Your address, it has to be a physical address and not at a UPS store because they know that it's at a UPS store with AI. A business phone line. Yes, you can use your cell phone, but you have to have a business line registered with the directory. Your email needs to be a business email, not an AOL or Gmail account. You can still use it for your business however you want, but you better have that. And all of those things need to be, the address and everything needs to be identical at the Secretary of State, at the IRS when you file your tax returns with Dun& Bradstreet, Experian Business, Equifax Business, your bank statement, your merchant account. Now, as long as those items are all identical, well, now you look stable to the computer system. And I tell people, if you have a calculator and I have a calculator and we hit 4 + 4, we both know they're going to show 8. Why? Because that's what was programmed in them before we bought them. And so what we're doing is we're going out to the public databases and programming in what the lender needs to see in order to give you that approval. And so that's how dumbed down we've made it for it, because it's a computer program. The bureaus and the banks, it's a computer.
So basically, that data, once it's all aligned and you start getting your trade line reporting, that computer is going to spit out to the lender, this is a good risk.
That's correct. And then lenders see that, well, you got a loan here. Well, don't leave me out. You're a good candidate. So then the offers open up, right? They don't want to be
Because
the
that,
first victim and they don't want to be left out.
right, right, right. So the game is actually different than in the business world than it is in the personal finance, is what you're saying.
Oh, personal finance. You want to have a $10,000 credit card and never use it. Put $300 on it. That's how the banks want it. They use that as good credit utilization. Personal, it's the stupidest thing on the planet. Personal
So
credit, here's a good tip. Have 3 credit cards, put 2 in your sock drawer, and use one for 3 months. And then after 3 months, switch it out with one of them in your sock drawer for 3 months. And then after that 3 months, go use the third one for 3 months. And your scores will be in the high 700s and low 800s because the computer system says, oh, this person knows really how well to utilize credit. No, you're not using credit. You got these credit cards, but you're not using them. It's the dumbest thing on the planet.
so why do more people not know how this game is played?
There's no education. I don't think the banks really want people to know because they want people to pay high interest rates. And that's the other question I get. What are your interest rates? Because you're doing everything the right way, you get introductory rates on these new accounts. And they're traditional banks, they're credit unions. Typically, you will get you a credit union a lot better than a big bank because the credit unions are fighting, right? They want your business. The big banks, they're just the behemoth. Yeah. Oh, well, go ahead. Whatever, you know,
I
nonchalant.
think I think the misnomer a lot of times is that the banks know who you are, and we forget we're just numbers to them.
Yeah, because you built that relationship with that banker. But the banker has no control. It's the computer on his desk or her desk that has all the control, and they don't know what's behind it. So when they say, man, sorry, Rob, you got declined. Not, you got declined because you need 6 trade lines. And by the way, because this is your industry code, these are the vendors you should go apply for. They don't have a clue. So they don't tell you. You don't have a clue. You have to run your business because there's those pressures of running your business. Well, I'll see what I can do with my personal credit or cosigner, get a cosigner or something like
Right,
that. Because
right.
you get through that problem and then it's in the rearview mirror. You got 1,000 other problems to worry about.
And I remember in really probably during COVID, I started learning about business credit. I, when I say learning, I started hearing about it, but I couldn't find information on it. I couldn't find anyone to teach me about it and to understand how it worked. And it was the most frustrating thing because it's like I could see, I don't call it the pot of gold on the other side because it wasn't, but you could see a different world on the other side. But the idea of, it was a Grand Canyon. How do I get across that Grand Canyon? And the idea of traversing down and back up was, but there's just no way out there to understand. And it really wasn't until fortuitously you and I met that
Right?
the the picture of this became very, very clear, very, like understanding. And, I uh, all the time you talk to business leaders and business owners, and they just like, they don't, the dots don't connect. They can't get it to connect the way it is. So, if you're a business owner, how powerful is it to have access to true business credit for your business? What's the power behind that?
Oh, always having access to money, knowing that. It's like
Yeah.
having an 850 FICO score and you can walk on the car dealership and get any car you want. That's the freedom you want to have. And with our program, you get assigned a credit coach to represent you with the lenders. Just like when you go to court, you have an attorney, or when you file your taxes, your accountant does that for you. We want to be your funding partner. We don't want to just fix your problem today. That's why we want to know where you're going to be in 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, because we want to be that go-to place. Uh, you just pick up the phone and you come here. And that's what we're doing. And because of my mentor who taught me how to take companies public, we want to be on NASDAQ in 2029. And we want to be the only business credit platform owned by entrepreneurs. So, we got some exciting things coming out next year. And that's what I did is I said, where do I want to be? And how do we back into it?
Yeah.
And every entrepreneur that's watching this needs to go out 24 months because 2 years goes by like that. Think of where you were
Yeah.
2 years ago and where you're at today.
Yeah.
Don't think about next week and the next bill. Go take some time and lay out a 24-month plan and put some goals. And those are just targets. They're not concrete stakes in the ground. And then what are the pieces along the way that you can clip on, bolt in, move around that's going to get you there? And that's what entrepreneurship is.
So I want to ask one more question, and then I'm going to pivot, and because I want to talk about your capital freedom movement. But before we go into that, um, as a business owner, I think the mindset a lot of times is, I've screwed up already so much. I can't get my FICO score up, and so they view business capital or business credit as hard to build as it is to build your FICO score or rebuild your FICO score, right? How, as a business owner, if I came to you, how hard is it to build your business credit profile to where you become capital qualified?
We'll go back to when you just started college and you got that credit card application when you were on campus. Why did they give you that application? And they don't do it anymore because they outlawed it, but back in the day they did. The reason they did that is because if whatever card you got first, on average, you had that card for like 16 years. So they wanted to be the first one in your wallet because that was your go-to place. Well, as soon as you got that first one, how many more did you get in the mail? Why? Because that first one was reported to the bureau and they all look at the reports and they get notifications and they know which one's the target. You're back in college with your business credit. You got a blank slate. And I'm talking in general because most business owners are in this situation. It's a blank slate. So once you get started, you go through the foundation, you apply for tier one, and then it takes about 45 days for those trade lines to show up because it's net 30. They're not like a credit card that reports, a personal card that reports every month. Business credit reports every other month. But as soon as those trade lines show up, man, it's almost like having an 850 personal FICO score. All the lenders want to offer you loans and credit cards and vendors come to the table. So, and that's why we want to know where are you going to be in 12 months, 24 months, because just because you get $100,000 of business credit doesn't mean you go draw it down, max it out and go to Vegas. You want to have that sitting there so when a problem comes up, you can take care of it. And you want to have that freedom. And that's the power of business credit. With consumer credit, it's always the opposite. If you got a $10,000 card and an $8,000 problem, You take care of that $8,000 problem, your FICO score's gone down. Now you have another $5,000 problem. The banks won't lend to you because of poor credit utilization in their program. But on the business side, man, they want to get you going. That they want to help entrepreneurs because we're a rare breed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It feels almost backwards, but when you start understanding it, it really makes a lot of sense. So, all right, let's shift over to your capital freedom movement. Let's talk about that. Tell me about that part of your business.
It's getting the word out, getting entrepreneurs to understand this, doing podcasts, doing workshops, 1 hour workshops, just introducing entrepreneurs to the concept of business credit. It's not scary, right? Everybody's scared of AI, right? But if you don't adapt and learn, you don't have to learn it inside and out. It's like anything in your business, marketing, Facebook ads, whatever. There's gurus who really specialize it. They have a knack for it. But you need to know that in order to help your business survive through all the changes and stuff. And so that's what we're doing at CredFin is we launched this movement because we want entrepreneurs to say, man, I fit in. And I've been on with companies, finance companies, merchant cash advance businesses that have databases of businesses that need our service. And so that's the mission behind the movement is to get as many businesses tied in because we're going back to communities. Everything is global, right? You can market nationwide, you can do all this stuff, but for insurance agents, it's more local, it's more community. And that's what we want to do is if we can help one business, how many more employees can they hire? How many families does that help? How much better is that community? And for every paycheck that goes out, there's 2.5 mouths attached to that depend on that paycheck. So we want to get jobs. There's $19 trillion being invested into this country. Entrepreneurs have so much opportunity. Go to a barber shop. He's got 3 locations. I said, well, why don't you franchise? Man, that would be my goal is to buy up all these chop shops is what he calls them. These older people that are running these barber shops and turn them into a customized barber shop. That's his slogan and stuff. I said, wherever these data centers are, they're hiring people. They're going to need barbershops and nail salons and restaurants. And that goes back to when I moved to Vegas. 6,000 people a month were moving to Vegas because they were building all the tall casinos. Well, all of those people needed schools. They needed restaurants. And it was just an amazing time to be there. And that's what I feel this country is right now. And if we could play a small part in helping these entrepreneurs not struggle and hire more and grow faster, that's what we want to do.
You know, that is a profoundly different message than I think a lot of entrepreneurs hear right now. There's a lot of doom and gloom in the market space because we see the costs rising. We see, you know, all of the headwinds that and let's face it, entrepreneurs face a lot of headwinds. I mean, despite any of the political or global upheaval that's going on, there's enough headwinds that I don't know what is it the average business startup lasts less than 2 years. And I could be wrong on this, but in just my research and looking at it, a lot of them are gone in 2 years because they don't have the capital to survive.
83% of businesses go out of business within 2 years. 56% go out of business because they didn't have enough capital.
So if they had access to capital, that changes those dynamics, doesn't it?
That's why we don't want to just fix today's problem. And we ask you, what do you need down the road? Because start preparing it's like my chef friend. Oh, I went and got a $180,000 loan for my parents who took out a mortgage on their house. I have a problem. What's your problem? I don't have any money for marketing. Marketing? Who are you going to serve food to if you don't market, you know?
Yeah.
But he didn't think down the road. And I'm not criticizing him. No one teaches this stuff. And be proud of what you've done so far. But how can we make it better? How can we make it more lucrative for your family? How can we make it easier for the next 2 years so it isn't a struggle like the last 2 years? And we want to ask those questions. Well, no one's ever asked them that. Right. Because who are you talking to? Your employees, they don't care. You can't talk to them. That's why I'm saying you can't talk to your brother who's not an entrepreneur. So you got to talk to the right people and somebody who's been there and done that.
I find it interesting because I think so often in the world we live in that your credit file, it's either a badge of honor or a badge of shame. And so when we start talking about business credit, if you're coming from that badge of shame, it's just so hard to fathom. And if you're coming from the badge of honor, it's hard to comprehend because the mindset is, well, I've already, but like there's an arrogance that goes to that side, and there's a defeatist on the other side, and there's no in between.
100% spot on. I talked to this guy yesterday. Well, I got an 850 personal score, and my son, he's in the 800s. And I'm like, okay, yeah, and I don't really need money, but I was just thinking about going into debt to grow my business. And I think I could do it with my personal credit. And then I explained how the system works. You can, but as soon as you get that $10,000 credit card and put 8 grand on it, your 850 went to 720 and then it'll go to 660. Right? And I tell people your FICO scores are not your character reference score. And that's been my mantras forever because it is. You have an 850 score, you're sitting up, you're proud, just like this guy yesterday. Oh man, I went through COVID, went through a divorce, had medical bills. I'm in the 400s. They're all slumped over and you know, it's a computer system. Let's go back and fix the errors and let's reprogram the computer system. And that's what we're doing. That's
Yeah.
simple.
I think you need to say that again. Like talk to that entrepreneur, talk to that person whose shoulders are slumped over because I know what that feels like. I mean, I've been there, done that, and you feel defeated. You feel like I don't know how to get out of this system, and it does. It feels like some you've fallen into a toilet bowl and somebody keeps flushing it every time you almost get crawled. Someone just flushes it again to watch you swirl around, and that's kind of how that feels. Talk to the listeners about that. Like personal.
It's shame. You feel shame because you're having to go in and a lender's telling you you're not worthy enough. But the computer's the one that's saying it. It's the messenger is that loan officer. They don't have anything personal against you, but you do because you're better than that. We're stronger than that. We're King Kong. There's no reason I should be like this, but life happens. Stand in front of 60 employees and tell them we're out of business on December the 13th. I didn't have any control over it. It happened. Do you think my credit went up from there or went down? When I got left the call center with no employees and no program, my scores went down, right? And did I feel shame? Absolutely. I felt horrible. But was it my fault? 100% it wasn't my fault. And that's what I'm trying to get across to entrepreneurs. Forget about it. Why are you wasting time worrying about it? We got a business to fund. We got a business to grow. You got a family to take care of, employees to take care of. We don't sit and worry about what a computer system says.
So if you could rewind to your 19-year-old self as you are, heading out to go start your entrepreneurial adventures, what would you say to that? What would you say to Ray back then?
Set up a corporation, start building business credit, and then when that corporation goes to hell, you set up a new corporation and start the process over again. Because that's why corporations and EIN numbers were invented 60, 70 years ago, was because of entrepreneurs. But then the banks, because it got so reckless, said, well, wait a minute, we're going to have to tie your personal score to this because too many businesses are just trying stuff with no plan and going out of business, and we're losing too much money. And so now the pendulum swung way the other way, and now we're coming back to the original formation of corporations so that they stand on their own. And when they fall apart, it's okay. You set up a new company. And I'm not saying that you do this as a practice to rip and tear the banks. That's not what it's about. But industries fail. Businesses fail. And when they fail, they can't pull you down. You need to be solid too.
So yeah, there's that balance of integrity and but leveraging the system that exists to accomplish that. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, they every entrepreneur lives and dies by the balance sheet, right? So they're looking at that and not recognizing.
They live and die by their bank account. They don't even know
Yeah,
what a balance sheet is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How many businesses, there's what, like 40 some odd million small businesses in America. How many of them do you think live and die by that exact model?
80%.
Yeah, yeah. What did the 20% figure out that the 80% didn't?
Too big to fail.
Yeah. Is this how, we see, especially the billionaires out there, and there's such a knock on them a lot of times because they've got billions. And then you'll see that, I think Trump was, some of his hotels went bankrupt, but he still had billions. Is that how they kind of do this?
They hire the best people. How many times was Trump audited and investigated, and he hired the best accountants and the best lawyers to do that? He didn't do it. With entrepreneurs, we find ourselves doing everything, and we're not experts in these fields. That's why we get in trouble, because we're not experts. We're just trying to figure it out and get by. All these wealthy people, they hire the best people for each category, the best marketer, the best chief revenue officer, the best HR person, right? And that's what sets those companies. And then once you get through that threshold, then it's a whole different ball league. But we're down here in the infinite stage,
Yeah.
growth stage.
But I always think in terms of it's that small business, those 40 million plus businesses that really are the backbone of this nation, right? They're the backbone of what's driving it, right? Main Street
100%.
USA. So, it's not about becoming these mega corporations. It's about being solvent, being stable as that backbone. And it so often feels like the deck is just stacked against you.
Right. And that's why working with people like yourself, we've bonded together and we're helping other people, and people that contract with us don't just, we're not another vendor, we're a partner. And that's what these 80%, you know, entrepreneurs need, is they need strategic partners in their business.
So, obviously we're going to post this out there and put this out, especially for the insurance world to kind of see how does how does someone contact you? How do they get in touch with you? How do they get into your system?
CredFin.ai.
That's it.
That's it. Everything is there. They can
Okay.
go to, there's a button on the top right-hand corner, open the vault, and you can create a
Hmm.
free account and test drive it if you'd like.
Wow. So really, yeah, I'm on your site now. We'll make sure we post it up in the Agent Underground, and we'll attach it to when we put it out. Um, but someone new that doesn't know this, that just doesn't understand this, they come in, they create a free account. What are they going to experience with you? What's going to happen when they get connected to you and your team?
So we want to do a one-on-one. We want to do a quick, it's not an interview, it's an analysis. Where are you at with your business? What are you looking for? And where are you looking to go? So we can customize a plan specifically for your business or your situation and then tell you exactly how we're going to help you and how long it's going to take and what are the requirements and all of that. So there's no guessing. It's a computer program. We're looking where the bugs are and let's debug it. Let's so it runs smoothly.
Love it. I love it. As we wrap up here, is there anything that you want to talk about that maybe we didn't talk about?
I was asked this question on another podcast. What's one thing you would say to an entrepreneur? And all I would say is you're worth it because you don't hear that enough and you get beat down every day and all you do is solve problems and you just question yourself. Don't do that. Just know you're worth it and why you're doing what you're doing has been given to you. And that's a gift and, and take and run with it.
I love that. That's awesome. I think I would say even one step further, just for me, that not only are you worth it, but your idea is worth it. The vision you have in your
Absolutely.
heart is worth it, right? It's worth pursuing. And one last thing before we go, and we could have talked about this earlier, but it's been in the back of my mind. Um, Credit Karma. How reliable is Credit Karma? Because that's where people go to try and figure this stuff out.
A lot for their personal credit. They give you the scores and then they want to sell you on a monitoring service. It's very unreliable. Um, it gives you a ballpark figure, but if you're going to look at it, you're going to have to tell me why you're looking at it, just so you feel good, or what's the plan? Because if you're looking for a plan, where you want to be, what's your next big purchase, then let's have a serious conversation. But at least you kind of know a ballpark and it's free, but if you go to a car dealership or try to apply for a mortgage, it's not going to be what Credit Karma tells you. I just guarantee you that.
I learned that firsthand. I had a what I thought was a really good credit score. Went into the car dealership, and they came back, and my credit score was in the 600s. And I
Yeah.
was like, no, it's not. And I pulled up Credit Karma and showed them, and they're like, yeah, we don't use that score. I was like, what do you mean you don't use it? What other score is there?
There's three. There's a mortgage credit report score. So the mortgage companies score your credit profiles differently. The car companies use a different scoring model. You have the same data, but it scores different. And then lenders use their own.
So again, feels like the deck is stacked against you.
Right. And how do you know? Unless you've been doing it for years, like myself, and seen it over and over again. But all you see is these commercials or these free ads and free app, get Credit Karma or creditscore.com. Remember that stupid music commercial? Creditreport.com and all that. They're just trying to sell you on that subscription.
Yeah, yeah, crazy. Well, Ray, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you bring to the table. For those that are listening, this is why we've partnered with Ray. You can find Ray in the Agent Underground with us. He is a partner in what we're doing from the standpoint of we want every agent insurance agency funded the way it needs to be so that you can thrive and grow in the coming years. But Ray, you have taught me even on this call just an enormous amount. Plus, I got to know you better. than I thought I knew you. So I know stories about you now and things, and um, really, really appreciate what you bring to the table, your expertise, your knowledge, all of those kinds of things. So, do you have any last things that you want to throw in before we call it a day?
We just want to be the funding insurance policy for your insurance agents.
I love it. I love it. Well, we will certainly, make you known in our world. And other than that, Ray, I appreciate you and thanks for being a part of this today. Thanks for taking your time. We spent an hour and a half together doing this. What an amazing thing.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Rob, and you're leading that charge for this disruptive change that's happening in that insurance agent industry, that insurance sector. And people need to know that it's spacious. You're not lonely, and there's people that can help you. And reach out to Rob and his team and, have a conversation. Conversation doesn't cost anything, and you can learn so much. Like Gifford said, if you're willing to run, I could run right alongside you.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching this whole time. Ray, thanks for joining us. And we will, I'm sure we'll have you on again. So thank you so much.
That's awesome. Thanks, Rob.